G'day guys, how are you going? I don't know if you can tell, but I'm pretty stoked because we are getting an Australian server finally. After years and years of asking, we finally are going to have pretty normal ping when playing World of Tanks, which will make firing a lot easier, just make gameplay a lot smoother, and yeah guys, I'm just so excited by this prospect. But guys, don't get your hopes up too much, because this is not an actual server like you might think it is. This is not like a new EU server or Asia server or anything like that. The Australia server is just a cluster built on the Asian server. So if you are an Asian player, which most Australians probably are, it just means that our latency will be lower, but we're not we're not going to be joining any different servers. So just so you guys know, a cluster is effectively a server. I mean, it is a server, but it's at a certain location. And what that means is that, like NA has different clusters, I think it's got the West and East cluster. If you are closer to the server, it means your ping is going to be lower. So if you are an Australian player, you are going to prefer to play on the Australian cluster, as this will mean that your ping, instead of being above 100 milliseconds, will be about 10 to 20 milliseconds, which is a dramatic increase in terms of better latency. So I think that the reason that Wargaming have introduced this new server is kind of twofold. One, it's because the Australians have been asking for years and years and years. I remember asking about it back in around 2012, about when we are going to be getting an Australian server, because the ping is pretty horrific, and we do have issues such as the Kiwi or whatever it's called, 3 cable, which connects Australia to Asia and the rest of the world, often getting severed by bad weather or objects, I'm not really sure. But these severing of the cable, it really does impact the ping, putting it to sometimes up to 300 ping, which is terrible to play on. I mean, to put into perspective for some of you other server player guys, it would be like an EU server player playing on the NA server. I think it's a similar kind of thing, but even worse than that. So just keep that in mind. The second reason is a bit more of a, well, we kind of feel the need to do this because the Australian players don't really like playing with other kind of players in the region. If you look at an Australian player in a general game, they write something in English and someone responds, and all you see is text boxes or things like that. No teamwork can go on. There really isn't that great of a communication. I see people speaking Vietnamese and other languages as well, which I don't understand, and it makes teamwork pretty much impossible. You might have one other English speaking person on your team, but that's about it. So I think that's a major reason that they've done it. And what that really meant was, when all these people were speaking other languages, it became really frustrating to kind of play in the game, because you can't communicate to anybody in anything other than, you know, when you press the Z and you have the standard commands like SOS and things like that. So a lot of Australian players and New Zealand players actually went over to the NA server. Which isn't that great, because one, it means that the Asian server doesn't bring in as much finance, and two, it just means that the Australian player base is less, and there's less of an Australian community. So they're trying to bring back those players, especially from the NA server, back to the Asia server, and that's really the main kind of reason that they've been introducing this Australian server. So it will start from the 1st of November, but there is a catch, guys, and that catch is that for the foreseeable future, I think for like a year or 2 years, the server is only going to be running between 6 p.m. and 12 midnight, which is a really short amount of time. And that's kind of upsetting to me, because as a student and as someone who has irregular work hours, it means that I'm really not going to be able to capitalize on that lower ping, which I've wanted for so long. And I'm not going to be able to get that really, maybe some days, but it's going to be rare for me. So I know a lot of people work 9 to 5 jobs, and therefore it works well for them. But for me, and I'm sure a lot of you guys out there, it's not going to work very well at all. But they've told me, and I've spoken to the producer of World of Tanks Asia, that they're doing this because of matchmaking concerns. They're worried that not enough people are going to be on the Australian server, and that's really going to mess up matchmaking and put people into really bad matchmaking in general. So it is more of a test at the moment, and it is something they want to implement 24/7, but at the moment it's only going to be between 6 p.m. and 12 a.m. So that's something you do need to keep in mind as well. So guys, as my own kind of little celebration for this, Wargaming gave me a few different keys to give away to you guys. It only works in the Asia server, so keep that in mind, but it's for closed beta access to Total War Arena, which is their brand new game that they're releasing that a lot of people are raving about. Actually, I've heard a lot of good things about it. I played it a bit myself. Not my kind of thing at the moment. Maybe I'll move into it at some point, but I've got 10 keys to give away. All I want you guys to do is just tell me why you want it down in the comment section below, and leave me your email address so I can email you the code if you are one of the winners. Again, I have 10 to give out, so you'll have very, very good chance of getting it if you just leave those details below. And if you don't feel comfortable, maybe just make a random one-off kind of account, and it can be that easy, and just put it in there. I understand that. And also guys, if you do want to share this video, I would really appreciate it. It's not a requirement, but maybe leave down below if you did share it as well. It's not gonna increase or decrease your chances, but it's something that helps me out a lot, and I'd really appreciate it if I saw it, to be honest. But anyway guys, thank you so very much for watching. If you did enjoy the video, consider leaving a thumbs up, and I'll catch you next time.